I'll never forget the day my wife got a letter taped to our front door, because that single sheet of paper was the start of one of the ugliest battles of our lives. It was from the president of our neighborhood association, a woman named Marlene, and in big bold letters it demanded that we remove the dogs immediately because apparently they devalued property. I read it once, then twice, and actually laughed. Dogs lowering property values? That was a new one. But when I turned to show my wife, Rachel, she wasn't laughing. She knew better than I did how far these associations were willing to go. To her, that letter wasn't just some cranky neighbor whining, it was a warning shot. Now, you need to know who those dogs were. Duke and Raven weren't just pets. They were my partners overseas before I retired from the service. Duke, a German shepherd with eyes like steel, could bring down an armed suspect before you even knew he'd moved. Raven, a Belgian Malinois, was lean, lightning fast, precise as a scalpel. They were disciplined to the core, loyal beyond reason, and honestly more trustworthy than most people I've met in my life. To Marlene, though, they weren't heroes, they were weapons she thought she could twist into a violation. A week later, another message came. No letterhead this time. No signature, just a note slid under our door. Comply, or it gets worse. That's when I realized this wasn't just HOA policy, it was personal. That same week, I noticed a drone buzzing over our backyard, dipping low enough to make Raven bare her teeth. I tracked it one night, followed its path, and watched it land right on Marlene's upstairs balcony. At the next meeting, I confronted her. "That your drone?" I asked. She just smiled, that smug little twist of her lips, and said, "Neighborhood safety requires oversight. If you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear." I wanted to snap back, but Rachel squeezed my hand under the table, and I knew we had to play it careful. But the so-called oversight escalated into harassment. Footprints in our backyard. Shadowy figures near the shed. Then came the men with clipboards, 4 of them striding up our driveway like they owned the place. They cited some municipal code section 14B and told me our fence had to come down. I knew my way around county records, so I checked. Section 14B didn't exist. These guys weren't officials, they were stooges. When I told them that, one of them leaned close, breath reeking of cheap whiskey, and muttered, "Some rules aren't written down." That was the moment it hit. His wasn't about fences, or dogs, or bylaws. This was pressure. They wanted to break us. It all came to a head one Saturday morning. It was one of those calm days when kids ride bikes in the street and neighbors mow their lawns. Rachel was kneeling in the front garden, humming as she trimmed her roses. Then I saw them 4 men again, but this time harder faces, no fake smiles, no clipboards. And behind them stood Marlene, phone raised like she was live streaming a prize fight. One of the men barked, "Remove the dogs. Remove the fence, or we remove you." Rachel stood up, gloves still on her hands, and answered steady as stone, "This is private property. Under the 4th Amendment, you don't step foot here without a warrant. Leave now." He sneered. "We don't need a warrant. HOA authorization is enough." That's when my blood went cold, because that wasn't just a bluff, that was a threat. I was halfway down the driveway when the first man lunged at Rachel. He grabbed for her arm, but Duke was faster. My old partner launched like a missile, biting straight into his chest, sending him flat on his back, gasping for air. The second swung a metal rod at Raven. Wrong move. She slipped sideways, latched onto his forearm with perfect control, locking him down without tearing him apart. The third tried to flank Rachel, but Duke was already there, crashing into his midsection and dropping him in the dirt. Commands flew from Rachel's mouth like she'd been born for its harp. Calm. Absolute. Duke, hold. Raven, stay. And just like that, the chaos froze, 2 grown men pinned by fur and discipline, not violence. By then, neighbors were pouring out of their houses, phones in hand, voices rising. "They're trespassing. Call the cops." Marlene's lost her mind. The street turned into a stage, and Marlene's plan backfired in real time. She shrieked, "This is assault. Your animals are out of control." I raised my own phone, recording everything, and shouted back, "No, Marlene. Under state law, dogs defending their handler from trespassers aren't liable. And you just filmed your own people attacking my wife." Her face cracked, and the crowd's murmurs shifted. The power she thought she had evaporated. When the deputies rolled up, Marlene flipped straight into victim mode. "They set their attack dogs on us," she wailed. pointing at Duke and Raven. Her hired muscle groaned behind her, cradling bruised arms and ribs, looking anywhere but at the officers. Rachel calmly clipped both dogs to their leashes. They sat obediently at her side, tongues out, calm as Sunday morning. I handed one deputy my phone. "You'll want this." Everything from the moment they stepped onto our property. He watched the video, jaw tightening with every second. Before it even ended, he lowered the phone and said, "Ma'am, you and your associates are under investigation for criminal trespass and assault. Those dogs didn't attack, they defended their handler from an imminent threat." Marlene stammered, reaching for her last card. "Then charge me, fine. But those beasts still get put down. That's what happens when dogs bite people." The deputy shook his head. "Wrong again. State civil code exempts dogs who defend their owners from trespassers committing crimes. They won't face consequences. You will." The cheer that went up from our neighbors was like a dam breaking. Phones recorded every second as deputies cuffed Marlene right there on the sidewalk. Her face burned red, her shrieks drowned out by clapping and whistles. The men she brought were loaded into the back of the cruisers, whining louder than the kids who'd been watching the whole scene. As the squad cars pulled away, Rachel knelt and wrapped her arms around Duke and Raven. Their tails wagged, their eyes soft again, their job complete. I put a hand on her shoulder and said, "You see that? They didn't just protect you. They exposed her." Rachel looked up, eyes fierce but proud. "They're not just dogs," she said quietly. "They're family." And in that moment, I knew she was right. The neighborhood had shifted. Marlene's grip was broken, and for the first time in years, our home actually felt like ours again. But here's the thing. As much as justice felt sweet that day, I couldn't shake the thought that people like Marlene don't vanish quietly. Power doesn't just dissolve, it simmers, waits, finds new cracks to seep through. Maybe she'll come back in another form, or maybe it'll be someone else with the same hunger to control. That's the part that keeps you looking over your shoulder, wondering when the next fight will come. So now I'll throw this to you. What do you think? Were we right to let the dogs do what they were trained to do? Or do you think Marlene had any point buried under all that abuse of power? Drop your thoughts down below. Share your own stories if you've dealt with power-hungry neighbors or ridiculous associations. And if you want more stories like this one, make sure you like, subscribe, and pass it along. Because out here, in neighborhoods just like ours, these battles are happening every day, and sometimes the only thing standing between intimidation and justice is the family that refuses to break.